and welcome to yet another exciting edition of The Other Perspective, proudly brought to you by ACFIN. The Other Perspective is a space where we interrogate the thing behind the thing that is the thing. My name is Elizabeth Farunji, and I'll be moderating today's show. And before we delve into today's discussion, let me request you to subscribe to ACFIN's YouTube channel, press the like button down below, and you can also share the link with your friends to be part of this discussion. Today's discussion is on Uganda's coffee deal, and we will be reading in between the lines. But before we start, let me give you some context to the show. Media has been awash with reports on a questionable coffee agreement between the government of Uganda and the Uganda Vinci Coffee Company Limited, reportedly owned by an Italian investor, Enrico Pinetti. It remains unclear what the value add of this company is to the coffee sector, and its accrued benefits to the ordinary coffee grower remain nebulous. This agreement remains shrouded in secrecy, and its details are only known to a few people in government. The Minister of Agriculture, the Solicitor General, who is required to, by law, to opine on such agreements, the Coffee Development Authority, and the Committee on Agriculture in Parliament have never seen it. On the surface, it looks as if Madame Pinetti is given a license to loot within the law. And today I'm honored to have three young panelists on the show, and they're no strangers to the show. I'll begin with introduction, then I'll begin with Priska Wanyenya. She is a parliamentary journalist and also a usual panelist on the show. Priska, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning to our listeners.
Thank you, Priska. I also have Abel Eseru. Abel is a political scientist and a usual face here from The Other Perspective. Abel, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and I want to thank all of those who are outside following us, and I hope that they will stay with us until the end.
All right, and then lastly, we have Gerard Koraneza. Gerard, can you hear us? Gerard is a youth in politics activist, and he has also been on the show a couple of times. We're glad to have you once again, Gerard.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to our great viewers wherever they are.
All right, thank you, Gerard. So I'll get in right to it, and I'll begin with you, Abel. What is the role of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority in deals of this nature? Because it looks like the authority has been bypassed.
Thank you, Lisa, for that. Before I respond about the roles or functions of Uganda Coffee Development Authority, I would like first of all viewers to understand why is coffee an issue in Uganda? Why is the coffee deal, the coffee agreement has brought a lot of intense disagreement within the public and those who signed it. First of all, one thing people need to know that coffee is one of the most sacred and traditional crops in Uganda. It has remained an important cultural pillar, which people always use to make agreements, acquire loans, and also welcome visitors. You know, every time people come to home, they tell you, come for coffee, can I give you some coffee? And also when they're celebrating their friendship, they say, can we go and have some coffee? Even when they're having new homes. Economically, currently, coffee is the second largest foreign exchange earner for Uganda. That is after gold. So coffee is a very important issue because it's a sign of wealth in most of the different societies in Uganda, especially those areas that grow coffee. That is Buganda, Bugisu, and some parts of Ankole. So you find that coffee is so important to the livelihoods of Ugandans. And if I am to go back to your question, where you want to know what the role of Uganda, whether Uganda Coffee Development Authority really played anything and its functions in this signing of this agreement, I will first start with informing you that yesterday when I was going through some of the websites, I came across an article on the State House websites, which shows that in July 2014, Uganda Vinci Coffee Company Limited delegation was led by Ms. Enrique Pinetti and was accompanied by the then Managing Director of Uganda Coffee Development Authority, Mr. Henry Ngabirano. They met the President Museveni, at his country home in Rwakitura. And it's reported that the discussions were around how Uganda Vinci Coffee Company wanted to establish a company at Namavi that would be roasting, manufacturing, and packaging instant coffee for export and home use. So I heard that during that meeting, they even demonstrated by making for the president some mini coffee, coffee using their delicious samples they had, and the president was very impressed with what they made. And I can verbatimly read what was published on the website, what the president said, that I have spent a very long time trying to get somebody to add value to our coffee. Uganda has been a donor by exporting raw coffee. Those are some of his remarks. So if Uganda Vinci Company, Coffee Company Limited, and the then managing director of Uganda Coffee Development Authority met the president in 2014, it shows you that Uganda Coffee Development Authority has been in this, in trying to lobby for this deal way back, though we did not see them come out and be part of the signing and taking the pictures, but it shows you that the process of coming into this agreement, Uganda Coffee Development Authority participated in it. Back to the functions of Uganda Coffee Development Authority. First of all, one of the functions, I will not mention them all, but one of the key functions that they do is to regulate all activities within the coffee value chain, on the farm and off-farm coffee activities. And also, the main thing which I will highlight is they also promote, strengthen, register coffee farmers groups, associations, and cooperatives, processors, roasters, brewers, and traders, middlemen, persons, or bodies. But also they register all coffee exports. So if you look at a group like Uganda Vinci Coffee Company Limited, it needs to be, it first needs to go through Uganda Coffee Development Authority, of which I've just shown you that way back in 2014, the then managing director of Uganda Coffee Development Authority went with them and met the president. That's where they initially started kicking off the deal of this coffee. So when I see people trying to roast the Ministry of Finance and they forget where the deal was struck, then they should not know how this country is being managed. But if you meet the president and the president okays and tells you that it's okay, I think I found a person who can add value in the coffee that we have been donating, then you should know that everything was done way back in 2014. So all this we are saying is just finalizing it is what they had agreed upon. That's what I can say for now.
All right. Thank you so much, Abel, for giving us that background on this deal. And Priska, it is my understanding that this deal was signed as far back as 2015, just like Abel said, the Uganda Vichy company lady, Pinetti, and the then UCDA boss met with the president in Rwakitura. And then a year later, this deal was signed. How come no one knew about it then and it's just raising dust right now? And is it a brand new agreement? Has it been amended? What was in that agreement in 2014?
Thanks so much, Lisa. And first of all, I have to apologize to our viewers for the slight late delay for about 8 minutes. Yeah. So on back to your question, the documents that are making rounds indicate that the deal was recently signed, but there is a possibility that there were some amendments made to it that finalized the deal. So this is likely to be the amended deal. And from what I know is, I think the delay came on the background of us government not having an enabling law that would compel farmers, and that is why that provision of registering farmers was included in the National Coffee Act. So whereas the deal was already on the table, as Abel has narrated, but the people behind it knew that it was likely going to be challenged in court on legal grounds on how would you compel farmers and everything. So they had to put the law in place before they would activate the what? They will activate the deal. And on why it took the public by surprise, I think one of the factors is the individual behind it, Pineti. Already she was in the news because of the Loboa hospital deal, and then and before we even see anything tangible from the hospital, then here comes the coffee deal also. So that also played a critical role on making sure. And the other thing that I know in the mafia world, probably someone got cheated on the deal, and that is my assumption. Someone got cheated on the deal and had to leak the information to the media about it. Because first of all, when you see the timing of when the agreement was made public vis-a-vis the time when the deal was signed, usually those agreements are taken as confidential, even if they are brought to parliament. They usually, it's a closed door meeting with media out. So it's someone who felt frustrated about the deal that made sure that that the information is leaked. So it's like getting back to the public. So basically that is the only thing that would explain. But from what Abel has said, this deal has been in the pipeline for a long time. Because remember, Pinetti, after after that State House visit, she went to URSB and registered the company about some few months after, about 3 or 4 or 5 months after. So that has been the chronology. You first go meet the president and you secure the deal, go register the company, have the enabling law where you not be criticized or taken to court about it. So that is basically the chronology that was. So the National Coffee Bill was just brought to in order to sanitize this whole deal. So now the MPs cannot blame anyone because they're the ones who passed the bill that mandates government to register all the coffee growers and everything, anyone in the sector. So basically that is the thing.
Is that the company was registered in January of 2014, and then they met the president in July of that year. So that's about 6-7 months down since they registered. But anyway, so Gerard, the permanent secretary to the Treasury, Ramadan Gobi, stated that government conducted all the necessary due diligence on this company, and they are convinced that the Uganda Vinci Coffee Company Limited will deliver. But when I last checked, and that is a few minutes ago, the company has no website, has no social media presence whatsoever. And if a company doesn't exist online, aren't we dealing with a briefcase company?
Thank you, Lisa, for that very good question. I will also supplement on Abel's submission by really stating that coffee is our sacred crop, both actually culturally, and even in terms of livelihood. I will tell you that over 2 million Ugandans derive their livelihood on coffee. So coffee as a crop, it benefits a lot to Ugandans. I want to categorically tell you that a lot of actually revenue that Uganda gets from exporting coffee, it contributes. Can you hear me, Lisa? Lisa?
Jared, I can hear you. Keep going.
So coffee is the leading. It is one of the leading,
We seem to have lost Jared. Abel, I'm going to bring you in on that. I hope you had the question. This company has no presence online. They have no website. We don't even know about their physical location, and yet the permanent secretary to the treasury states that they did all the necessary due diligence. What's your say on that? How do we trust that this company is real?
It's so interesting that when we checked, we did not find anything like.
These are,
I think Gerald is back. So let him
yeah,
first.
these are,
we had
these
lost
are
you, but
on you asked me a question on the feasibility. Of course, you know, the government has put out rightly that it has been doing the due diligence, but of course, I was just giving you the background of our coffee, how most of the people benefit, this over the 6 million people benefit from the coffee, the coffee industry. Really, bringing like an investor like Vinci on in this very industry on value addition, because we see that over that over 600 tons that is going to be processing over 600 tons, you know, to add the value addition, you know, to get the market in European market, because we are targeting over 8, is it over I think over 40 billion US dollars market on the European market. So there is that kind of value addition. So the due diligence that the government, you know, has been talking about, you know, Abel has categorically said that this woman met the president in 2014. I think this is a briefcase investor who just came in around here. So I believe the government has been, you know, monitoring closely how it operates its operation, because you see the woman met by then the executive director for Uganda Coffee Development Authority in 2014. So I believe the government has been monitoring this investor closely, but without also having a website or a social media. There are some organizations that do operate, of course. Okay, an individual may be having his own money, and then he wants to invest it. Then he just maybe comes up with something, but I believe probably the government has been working closely. You know, some top officials have been, you know, working closely with this woman, because I believe this woman is the same woman who was been given the Roboa project. That's where I usually actually get my disappointment from, because he has failed to deliver on Roboa project. So I think the government really knows this very particular person. The only thing that I'm pessimist about is on the delivery, because this is the woman whom we have given the Roboa hospital and he has failed to deliver on it. So I believe the government knows this very particular individual that has given this coffee deal. Over to you, Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Jared, and to you, Abdul. In this day and era, for a reputable company not to have a social media presence, and if we're looking at the individual that they claim to have done the due diligence on, her reputation is not all that good, because we have seen the Lubowa hospital that was interested with her, and it hasn't yet been started or initiated. Why would they entrust Uganda's coffee to a company owned by this lady?
That's a very good question, Lisa, and it reminds me of some of the dealings that happened in South Africa. If you do know the looting that happened in South Africa and led to the arrest of the president, and also some fled. There's a scholar whom I read this book about that very thing. It's called Stefan Hofstadter, who wrote on the license to loot. He wrote a book called License to Loot, which points out how complex looting schemes involving politicians, bureaucrats, and investors work together to steal the country's resources. So they bring pseudo investors who come and claim they take pictures and they claim these are investors who are going to work with us. who are going to help the country in terms of making more revenue and bringing in more money, helping industrialize our country. But if you double click on some of those investors, for example, in Stefan Holzhauer's book, he points out that some of these investors are being used by these bureaucrats and politicians to launder money on behalf of these politicians and bureaucrats. So I don't want to rule out the possibility that we might also have some of those investors in Uganda whom we always see. They give them deals, they don't complete the deals, but Ugandans have spent a lot of money in terms of facilitating them to do the work. We are talking about the Lubua Hospital, which is not complete. And we're again seeing the same investors being given the coffee deal. So we ask ourselves, why is it that government, if you're talking of that you've done the due diligence on someone, first start with the track record of working with you as a government. If this person has worked with us before as government, and we have seen that there are some deals or government programs she has not completed, why would you go ahead and add her another government program or government deal which involves coffee? She has never engaged in coffee before. She has never engaged with any other country before in terms of dealing with coffee. So why give her the deal, yet she doesn't have all those? If you're talking of due diligence, you have to look at, has he ever done that business before with any other country? Does she have any reputable relationship with any other coffee dealers outside the world? You're talking of her not having a social media visibility. Currently, in this era of which we are living in, you cannot be operating on behalf of any government where if someone just needs to search for you online and get to know that, okay, Uganda which company exists. But now if I search for you online, I can't find you. Then which kind of organization is that? That brings the reputation of organizations to question. So as Ugandans, we do very, very, very concerned about some of these investors they bring to us. Of course, we do know that Uganda Investment Authority is an open gate which has to bring in investors to the country. But there are also allegations that it could have been that Uganda Investment Authority did not even participate in bringing in some of these investors. So we need to also question, why is it that these investors are bypassing some of the relevant authorities and they are coming through as individuals? So it could point out to issues of state capture, whereby you have certain individuals who have a lot of power and they even supersede the powers of the institutions that have been put in place to make sure that government operates normally. So you find that informal entities or informal powers within government have more power than the formal institutions. So you end up finding that all the deals which have been struck by the government are always done by those informal powers. So the formal powers are always neglected.
All right. Thank you, Abel, for that. We're going to go for a short break, and after that, we'll talk about the role of the Uganda Investment Authority in this whole deal.
So, Madam MP, I'm so honored to have you on this interview. So, for starters, how does it feel like being an MP? I want you to take me through your scope of work in this office. Actually, I think this is something better. Why don't I hand over my office to you for something like 2 or 3 days? That will be perfect. It will be perfect. So when will you be free? We can do it now. Now? I'm going to hand over my office to you for 24 hours. Okay. Right. This is a list of the calls I'm expecting today. These are the phones. You make sure you note down everything. Okay. Have a good day. Have a good day too.
Yes, please, Officer for MP. Okay. Please, I'll call you back. Hello, Officer for MP. How may I help you? Oh my God. How much? 14. Oh my God. Okay, fine. All right.
My God!
this what she goes through?
Oh, whatever. Thank God you're back. I can't do this anymore. But we agreed for 24 hours. What does that mean? I don't know how you do it. Let me just look back. Have you got enough for your story? Enough. I got more than what I bargained for. Thank you so much. Voters redefined the work of an MP. I buy food, I pay for burials, I pay school fees for so many, I pay hospital bills, I buy seeds and donate.
What? Why? Tell people the bitter truth.
They don't want to know.
Do your job.
Which is?
Make laws, protect the democratic government, oversee the implementation of the government programs.
They don't want to.
When will you ever put service before politics?
Tell voters I'm a politician, not a Rotarian. They should stop that begging culture of theirs.
Stop imposing such overwhelming demands on your MP. The statutory role of an MP is to perform legislation, oversight, budget approval, and representation.
Yes, welcome back from that short break. And before we broke off, we were discussing the role of the Uganda Investment Authority in this deal. But before we go into that, Priska, I hope you're back on. Priska?
Are you getting me?
Yes, Priska. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, so Parliament passed the Coffee Act in 2021, and currently they have they've constituted the Trade Committee to probe how the Uganda Vinci Company signed this contract and why they were awarded these tax exemptions. Isn't it on the contrary? They passed the bill giving the government all the powers to do this, and now they are probing it. What do you have to say about this?
Thanks so much, Lisa. And I remember when we were breaking off, you hinted about inquiring into the role of Uganda Investment Authority in this whole deal. I am always of the view that any serious investor should not be seen at State House, because and over time I've been proved right, because we have institutions in place that if you're going to invest or undertake any project, there are institutions that you have to go through for your project to be approved and everything. Because UIA has one stop center where they even bring around URSB, they have URA, so they are in one unit. They are just our neighbors here. So State House, you would go to State House as the last resort, probably if someone is standing in your way. But for you to come from Italy and you say, I'm going to invest in Uganda, and you want to go to State House, each time I see those so-called investors in State House, they have turned out, to me, I view them as jokers, because we have even seen the professor of COVID and everything. And I usually tend to ask people that, how many times do you see Bill Gates or Elon Musk or anyone at the White House in the US? Within 5 years, you can see them probably once. You see that? So because there are institutions in place to guide you throughout your investment, if you're really a genuine investor. You see that? And you've even seen serious companies like MTN, they didn't have to first go to State House. They only go to State House when there is some bickering between them, or there are some things that they need to negotiate. But it's not that they are going for. So that speaks about the UIA thing. And when the PS said that they did due diligence, of which, but it's his word against the public, because no one has been in position to see the due diligence report. And he said that the government has been looking for someone to invest, to add value to the coffee. And Pinetti approached government and said, I can raise 80 million US dollars to undertake this project. And so that brings to question, was any due diligence carried out on her financial capability? Because I was in Parliament yesterday when the officials of Ministry of Health were talking about the Lua project that has really come out to haunt Pinetti. They said that so far, 2 contractors have abandoned the site, Rocco and Power China. 2 of them have abandoned the site. And the last time the committee was at the site, all they saw was iron bars, mitaimbwa. There was really nothing done. And you should know that in this current financial year we are in, they gave about 348 billion shillings. And as I was coming here, I told Lizzie that I might run late because Luboa was another issue that was being discussed in Parliament, because Kasaija was appearing before the Finance Committee. And the committee is saying that probably this money should not be approved. If they want, they can, if it's really urgent, they can come for supplementary. She was given 348 billion last year. Now she's requesting for another 319 billion. You see that? That's about 667 billion shillings that is going to go injected, because I'm counting this money that is coming up because the accountant general said as the moment you approved that promissory note, as when the date comes due for the money to be given me, I have to give it, because if I delay, it will be breach of the contract. So it's technically like this money has already been approved. There is nothing we can do about it. And so when this whole thing of the due diligence, if she has failed to raise money, because she had claimed she was going to get funding from a British bank. If she has failed to raise money for this Lua project, and this is the same person telling you, I can raise 80 million US dollars. I don't know whether the minister thought the 80 million thought the currencies in Uganda or not, but 80 million shillings is a lot of money for you to claim that this approached us. And so the farmers were asking, if did you okay, if did you alert us on expression of interest to see how we are going to add value to our coffee? Because at least they needed that. And Ramadan also said that for the people who are the people like the Kubishengas who have the capability to export their own coffee, they can do that. But you remember that about 80% of the coffee that is grown in Uganda is by the small scale farmers. On the commercial farmers are contributing the least percentage. So, and the small scale farmers are the ones who are going to be under penalty because they have no capability to what? To export the coffee on their own. So that is why people are saying, who is now going to speak for the what? For the farmers. And from what I know is the minister when Kasaija was asked about the consultation to the farmers on KFM, he said that NRM did not consult Ugandans when they were going to the bush. Why should they consult them about coffee? That is what he told them on KFM. So you go with that kind of attitude is comparing a rebellion to something sensitive as coffee. So he said that for him, he asked that, he also doesn't know the number of coffee farmers. So he said because he doesn't know the number of coffee farmers, it's the reason as to why he didn't consult them. So you cannot tell me that you conducted a due diligence when you didn't even consult the key stakeholders of at least the farmers would have been and the traders would have been concerned, because they are in very many associations, and circles now and the trendy thing these days. So if you're going to get any funding, you come in a group. I'm sure there are all those groups that are registered. Even Parliament itself, when it was processing that coffee bill, there were many associations that came. It's a matter of Kasaija making a call to the clerk of the agriculture committee and said, because when those stakeholders come in Parliament, they register their names and contacts behind. So you tell them that, get me a list of the coffee associations that I can consult over this thing. And even if we cannot consult as the minister, you can ask the agriculture committee on behalf of Parliament that consult me about this thing. That was it. But so that speaks about there was no political will to consult the farmers in the first place.
Oscar, let me cut you short there. You remind me of something. The same Kasaija in a press interview last week was asked why the Minister of Agriculture was not involved in the deal, and his reply was, "I do not need to tell him," meaning to me was the Minister of Agriculture, "because the task of industrializing this country is on me." Why would ministers serving in the same government move in such an uncoordinated fashion?
That is what I told you about the people, the equal sharing in the deal. The ministry, they made this deal in a way that it's tight knit, in that they are few people who know about it. Because if you're going to involve UCDA, and then you're going to, because it needed UCDA, it needed also Ministry of Trade and Industries, it needed also the Ministry of Agriculture and everything. So they had to make the deal tight knit, in that they kind of keep the information within the circles of the people who are well versed with the matter. Because the more people you involve in the deal, the less share of the deal that you get. So there was totally no willingness to, and you even see the attitude of the minister. Because when you see the hierarchy of government, ministers are the same. It doesn't matter which portfolio you hold, but the Minister of Finance is at the same hierarchy as. You remember last week we talked about Tumwebaze coming up to say for the students of literature, you would see the tone behind Tumwebaze's tweet. You would see an angry man who is displeased about the development. And it's not surprising that they have now come to clash. But now I think with as you say, the trade committee is going to investigate. And I'm not so sure. Of course, they are going to make the recommendations, but you should know that the recommendations that are made by Parliament are implemented by the executive. Still, it's going to go back to the ministry, or the cabinet itself. Cabinet that took the decision in the first place, with Kasaija being. So it's going to be around in circles. I tend to think that Parliament is trying to come up to act like it's doing something, trying to correct some of the mistakes that it made. But the deal has already been signed. Even the Attorney General acknowledged. Of course, they're going to make some recommendations, probably hold people accountable, apologize, things like that. But after that, the person who has to implement the recommendations has to be the executive that is led by the president. So apart from Parliament posturing as if it's trying to do something, because the coffee is the trendy thing right now, it's likely to cost them politically. I don't think there is anything much. Yes, there are going to be more revelations that are going to be made, because there is a lineup about 26 entities that are going to be investigated. But now, even the mere fact that even when I saw the news that the investigation is going to be handled by the trade committee, I asked myself why. But you see, Mwine Mpaka, there is kind of a proactive person. So I thought it would be a joint committee of agriculture and trade, but they have decided to make it trade. So that is also problematic, because agriculture has a lot of MPs with an agriculture background. So I don't expect so much from what is going to transpire in the trade committee.
Thank you, Priska, for that.
I wanted to add something on what Priska has just been hinting on the bickering between the ministers. You see, I told you, when you've created a pool whereby there is a license to loot, of course, there are always those institutions that will want to loot alone and ignore others. So they create their own oligopoly, whereby it's only a few individuals who benefit from most of the government deals, and they shield away those other people. So those who feel like they have been ignored and excluded, yet they are supposed to be part of that deal, will always leak the dealings outside, and you will see some of them even may end up financing the media to complain about what is happening, and paint the bad picture about what is happening. Of course, if the deal is bad and they also know that the deal was bad but they have ignored them, they will make sure that there's a lot of media attention on that bill, and the coverage will be so intense. So what we are seeing right now, we should not just ignore it that it's just the Ugandans are the only ones that are fighting it, but there are very many people behind it, because the coverage the bill has got, okay, the agreement has gotten, it is so much, to the extent that even people are wondering, why is it that this agreement is dominating various media houses, and it has been constant for almost the last 2 weeks. That should show you that there are some forces also which are not happy about it, because they have been excluded from this agreement. So the license to loot sometimes comes back and haunts those very people who issue those licenses to other people to loot, and they ignore others. So we need to see how we can fix some of these messes, whereby we get investors who are not so genuine, who come with a track record whereby we give them. Priska has just told you how currently Parliament is sitting and trying to find out how far government can go to resolve the thing of the Lugo Hospital. You've just heard from her that the two companies which are doing the construction have left the site. So what does that communicate to you? And someone is coming to tell you she has over 80 million US dollars to invest in this coffee company. Where is he going to get that money from? All those questions are unanswered. So we need to know, as Ugandans, are we giving the agreement that has been signed? Is the company really genuine? Is it reputable? Can it really be able to make sure that there is value add, as they claim they are going to add value in our coffee? So if that is not done in the long run, then whom should they blame?
Abel, I want to keep you on there. The role of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, according to the National Coffee Act, under Part 5, Section 35 of Subsection 1, states that the authority shall on application issue the following licenses upon such terms and conditions as the authority thinks fit. And that's the coffee buyer's license, the coffee grading license, and the processor's license. But what explains these inconsistencies and contradictions? Abel, can you get me?
Yes, I can get you. To me, when I look at what was done, of course, when you look at the Uganda Coffee Act, which was signed in 2021, it gives the Uganda Coffee Development Authority some of the rights to register and give license to all the coffee exporters and those coffee processors and various actors in the coffee industry. But when we look at the bickering around right now, there are claims that Uganda Coffee Development Authority did not participate in the final signing of this agreement. But of course, from the initial phase, which I explained to you, that their former managing director participated in accompanying this Uganda Vinci company, Uganda Vinci Coffee Company Limited, to meet the president director in July 2014. So that shows you, that gives you a clear indicator that they participated in the process of making sure that this agreement was in place, was going to be put in place. So, because as I'm aware that this was just they just amended this agreement on the 10th of February 2022, but it was in place. So there are other things which were blocking it. As Priska shared with you, that they knew the law would not favor them, so they first had to make sure they put in place a legal framework that would protect them. That's why we ended up seeing the Coffee Act being put in place in 2021. So once the act is in place, then they have a legal backing which can protect them, and they can continue with whatever they want to do. So to respond to your issue of whether you're asking whether Uganda Investment Authority or Uganda Coffee Development Authority was in this.
It's the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, UCDA.
To me, I think they participated from the initial phase where the former managing director met the president, and I think they agreed some of the things which were in this agreement. But of course, in the final signing, which we saw on the 10th of February 2022, of course, we didn't see some of them in the picture, so I don't know whether they really participated in the final deal or they were kicked out. You know, when you're dealing with people who want to benefit and you want a few people to benefit, of course, you have to make sure you can kick out others and you remain a few who can eat. And then at the end result, you see the thing will be blown to the media and you will see infights. So that's what we are seeing right now.
All right, thank you, Abel. And Jared, I want to bring you back on. Government is insisting that it is not a monopoly, but the more you look at it, the more it looks like a monopoly. Ramadan Gobi denies claims that the government is creating a monopoly because he says the company shall only utilize 6.4% of Uganda's coffee production at the start. What do you have to say about this? Is it a monopoly or is it not?
Lisa, I see it, in my own opinion, with the kind of incentives that they are giving, the tax exemption, you know, they won't be paying the NSSF income tax, all the taxes, they have been exempted from actually paying all these. I think there is something that is very unique about this Vinci company, because we have gotten so many companies that have been roasting coffee here. So, of course, 6.4% that they will be producing, really, they are trying to show that they will not be monopolizing. But this local coffee farmer, the one who is in Ibugisu, the one who is in Uganda here, he cannot have, of course, he doesn't have the capacity to sell coffee outside. People like, you know, big coffee farmers like probably like the Kabushengas, the Ruggiero farms, they're the ones who have the capacity, but the rock farmer is not going to be benefiting. So I see it as a monopoly because these people, they don't have options. So they will be giving their coffee to this very investor who has been given land, who has been, you know, given, you know, tax-free. So I look at it as a monopoly in such kind of manner, because really he's going to out to compete these other local producers, these other people who are doing it. So it's unfair to a local farmer because he doesn't have variety of options like they had. So I see it in that very range.
Thank you, Jared. Priska, you have something to say about this, about the monopoly situation we have going on?
Actually, Lisa, I'd commented about it because the mere, I told you that about 80% of the farmers are small scale holders, and even the statement that Gobi made was out in the open, because it said that those farmers who are incapable of exporting their own coffee, they can do it. And so that means the majority of those who can't have to go through Pineti. You see that? So that is the issue of denying that there is no monopoly. It's just trying to sugarcoat, try to sanitize the madness that they've already made in the deal. And as we were discussing, I'm in touch with some of the people at Parliament, because I told the coffee issue has been raised, and the Minister Kasaija, I'm told he has said that the ministry is going to analyze the deal and come up with a statement. Now that is the latest. They are going to analyze. That means he signed a deal without analyzing it in the first place. Because what else are you going to analyze if you already appended the signature to it? And so the argument of saying that it is not a monopoly does not hold water, because the majority of the farmers have been left on their out in the cold at the mercy of the price that is going to be quoted by Pinetti. So that is a disguised monopoly. They think that a monopoly has to be, everyone has to come. But if the majority have been left out in the cold, that is a disguised monopoly that you have already created in the market. And I see that our time is up, because this debate is going to keep on going on. And the latest statement by the minister that they're going to analyze the statement, it's more annoying, because, okay, you're going to analyze and then what? Because now already Pinetti has the chip. You're now going to be the one on the bargaining side trying to tell her, let's modify this, something you should have done had you consulted the farmers in the first place. So the whole bickering of the ministers and everything is they are just trying to play on the minds of Ugandans. But I think it's time the government started to take seriously the stakeholders and started make consultations, because those stakeholders, you may think that these are the people with the enchacha, or who have never been to school, but trust me, when you speak to those local people, they understand their businesses best. So it is about you dropping your privilege of thinking that because you sit in an S office, that you know better than they do. These people understand their business. A coffee farmer in Elgon region does not have the same experience as a coffee farmer in Buganda. Because they have varying, and you even see the Katikiro also came up and said the kingdom must have been consulted also that. So at least going forward, government should start taking the citizens seriously, what it means consulting. Kasaija did not have to go to every farmer to consult. It's a matter of you just drawing up and say, there are coffee farmers in Uganda, let me meet one group. There are coffee farmers in Elgon, things like that in the west and the north. And you consult, get their opinions and sit down and agree on something. Not you arrogantly coming to tell them that when we went to the bush, we fought, we didn't consult you. It's going to cost them so much. And in the end, because they are in their later years, but these farmers have kids who are going, and they are trying to patch away and to make sure that their kids try to compete for jobs with the kids of Kasaija. Already the ground is not leveled. But now even they are trying to grow coffee so that they try to bridge the gap, but now you're taking away their own ground. So going forward, the government needs to take consultations of stakeholders seriously.
Thank you, Priska, for that final message. Yes, Abba.
I would like to also supplement on what Priska and Gerald have said concerning the monopoly or the oligopoly. You see, government can systematically create these monopolies or oligopolies. Oligopolies are like a small group of producers or farmers where there's limited competition among them, and other people also want to engage in selling the same product they are trying to sell and produce. So you can see that current right now, we saw they came up with an act in 2021, Uganda Coffee Act. So first of all, that act only is a barrier to some of the people who will want to acquire licenses to either add value to this coffee, because they have to get a license through the same government, which has signed an agreement with Uganda Vinci Coffee Company. So they can put in terms where they can tell you, you have to raise this amount of money if you want to get a license to do the same thing like Uganda Vinci Coffee Company. So they can play with you systematically within the law and kick you out. So the claims that they are not creating a monopoly or oligopoly, That's just, I look at it as rhetoric, but they have already created a platform whereby they can already kick out other farmers, because they can tell you, okay, can you come up with 80 million US dollars and we give you a license to do the same thing like you? How many Ugandans can raise that money? There are very few. So they are creating their monopoly systematically and they are blocking others out. So they need to rethink and see how can we help Ugandans? Because if you oppress them and do away with most of them, because most of them rely on for their livelihood. So if you decide to create one monopoly and kick out other people out of the market, that means you're going to affect the livelihood of very many Ugandans. And you cannot affect the livelihood of very many Ugandans and think you can move into a middle income status. So we shall just
Yes, Abel. Our time is fast spent. What's your final message to the government if they're listening, the people in government?
I would tell the people in the government they need to rethink. They need to go and, as the minister, as we are hearing the minister, I think that he's going to go and reanalyze the agreement. Indeed, let him go and reanalyze the agreement with a sober mind and make sure that he puts Ugandans into his consideration when he's reanalyzing that agreement. And they find ways of negotiating with Uganda Vinci Coffee Company. If there is ways of making sure that if they can be able to do away with the agreement, for me, I feel like the agreement should be just kicked off and they cancel it. Although it will cost Uganda a lot of money, but they can sit down and negotiate, because some of these agreements also are signed so that some people cancel it and benefit from the government by getting money. So never know.
Thank you, Abel. And lastly, Gerard, your parting shots.
My parting shot, the government, actually within its system, these people have been planning to do this. I recall they had to withdraw from International Coffee Organization. That is a platform that brings together the producers of coffee. So it has been a move that is planned. So this some group of people who want really to sniff for the resources. I'm not a pessimist, but I pray that really Uganda Vinci the Vinci Coffee Company Limited delivers its mandate. I pray that the local farmers who is toiling in Bugis, who is toiling around Buganda in the areas of Ankole like Bushenyi, really get this premium. Okay, like we need to see their prices. Coffee. Most of the people, they depend coffee on livelihood. I expect at least the government to consider these very people rather than being exploited by this so-called investor. I thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jared, and thank you to all our panelists for taking time to be part of this conversation. And also thank you to all our viewers who tune in every Wednesday. We hope to see you next week, same place, same time. God bless you.